What the heck? Okay. Welcome to the basement in the off season. I've rearranged some things, and today we're going to be taking a look at my Techdisc, which I actually need one of your guys' help with, potentially, if possible, because I was a little surprised at how fast I throw. And probably not in the way that you think. Let me quickly first give you guys a little show around of what's going on. I also have some new merch already, which I'm super pumped for, and some other things that I'll be selling over on Instagram. I'll just show you all that real fast, so skip through if you don't want to see any of that, because today I want to kind of get a benchmark of how fast I'm throwing, give some big problems that I personally have with the Techdisc, which I don't think are universal to everybody. And then because of what I'm going to talk about with the Techdisc, we'll look at kind of the main things, forehand and backhand, that I'm wanting to first nail down in my throwing and how I plan to do that in a training basis, not just throw into the net a bunch, but kind of systematize it a little bit and bring you behind that process. So welcome to the first snow day of the year. It's melting mostly right now, but there's still snow on the ground, so it counts. So that's what we're looking at. I just kind of moved everything in this area. This tripod that's gonna be used. Baby sleeps here. Not really, actually. Right now, she basically just sleeps in my arms. But I have some warm-up equipment and workout equipment over here. Nothing too crazy. I don't use most of it, honestly. The bands can be solid to use, and then there's like the throw form. Potentially will be helpful for throwing without rounding, but for me, it might be for a different issue, honestly. You see this nice big net over here. Visionary makes some good nets. I personally don't use them because they don't have this big open center. I like the big open center, but I do have a link for Visionary down in the description. I bought this mat, interestingly, on Temu, however you call it. That Super Bowl commercial just kind of lives in my head rent free right now. Basically because I was looking for a nice, like, 8mm thick workout mat that will cushion some stuff. I can also get some kettlebells and then throw not on this pretty slippery concrete. And after like my first time discount or whatever, it was $90 instead of $260 for an equivalently sized mat after tax and shipping. And I was like, I want to bite the bullet and test it out. And then it got here. I'm not recommending you use Temu or whatever, but it worked for me. Right where you guys are is typically where I putt from. I got about 25 feet of space to my basket over there. I might put down some turf. I also will be putting in new lighting up here because that's going to make this place look so much better. And then also make this useful. I have a GoPro in the corner just to get a side view since I'm throwing this way. Couple more things to show you. Just my space is a little bit of a mess right now, but shipping goes down there. This is my desk. I'm a nerd, so I have notes up. I'm watching football, and then I'm watching a math video. Freaking nerd. Giveaway discs and other stuff that I haven't even unboxed yet, which will go on Banana Froth. Some storage. I'm gonna put up a wall here, I think, and then this is stuff that I need to get rid of. So it's gonna be over on Instagram. Real quick, I have an actual really nice monitor. It's the same monitor that I'm using now. This is the 27-inch, this is the 32, and it was just too big for me. I think it retails for like $600 or something like that with the ergo stand, maybe $550. I'm gonna try to sell it to you guys for like $250 if someone wants to buy it. It'll be over on Instagram, all this information. I also have a bunch of the older bags that I have. Now that, probably one of my next videos is gonna be a review of the new European birdie stuff that they sent out. I have those bags. I also will have some other like smaller camera equipment and whatever being sold. But the last cool thing you guys are gonna see throughout the rest of this video, it's available now, it's on my site for a pretty specific demo, but honestly, everyone can be one of these if they really want to. And that is a disc dad. My wife had a nice Nike hat that had like their logo on it in a Times New Roman font, and I was like, that's kind of cute. So I have a couple of these right now, not a ton of stock, but I'm planning on keeping these guys stocked. So if you'd like, go ahead and snag one now. There's only like 20 available. And after those are gone, I'll order more, and I'll actually put up a pre-order. It'll say pre-order. They take about 2 weeks to get to you from when you buy them. But then after the pre-order, I should keep them stocked. There's also going to be an option for a second colorway in the pre-order if you'd like. Let me know. I'm going to finish my warm-up, starting with some T-spine rotations, just getting my abs moving. Then straight leg series for my hip flexors and my glute med specifically. Then some stuff for my shoulders, and then we'll get on to throwing. I'm going to just do 10 throws today to kind of benchmark it and then talk through my problems with the Techdisc personally. Then we'll look at the form, because that's more important to me than my Techdisc numbers, but Techdisc is actually a really interesting and cool product. I just don't know how much I'll be using it in the off-season. What's up?
Bouncer. That's nice.
Right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
For 90 bucks?
Yeah.
Steal. It's upside down right now. This is the normal.
Okay.
It's just because if you look at the ends, I'm tamping them down so that it's normal. Forgot I didn't bring that up. My bad. Brought up the baby at least.
It's the important part.
A lot of stuff to just kind of help my shoulder blades stay in the right place, the right plane of movement. Of course, you want to do it on both sides. Then these are for both of your both of your rhomboids, your minor and your major. Try to just slide this down, keeping everything at a 90 degree. And you're feeling this right in between your shoulder blades. Yeah, and this is not prescriptive, and so that's why I'm not really explaining it too much. I'm just more walking through my process. And then instead of palms up, palms in. I forget which one is your minor and which one's your major, but it's for both of them. I think I'm probably going to get some bands at some point to go up into this I-beam, which will also have maybe a pull-up bar or something, so that I can do some different movement on it, but also working on external rotators and subscap here. Make sure that I can move comfy. This one looks the stupidest. It's for your mid-back. Look at it. It's like a dolphin. Try to open up the collarbone too. Just trying to make sure that a whole bunch of parts of my body can move. Because, I mean, everybody's going to compensate in some way in their throw. Almost no one has perfect biomechanics at all. I don't even know if we know what perfect biomechanics are, so I'm trying to make sure that the most parts of my body as possible are able to move and have strength in the ranges of motion that they're in, so that if I'm trying to recruit them to throw, I can in some way instead of having to compensate through something else. Now we're gonna get to what's actually was pretty surprising to me with the Techdisc, and that is that I was throwing way slower than I thought for how fast I've been able to throw. And I think part of it could be a technology issue, but most of it is, I think I'm more of a spin than a speed kind of guy, personally. However, all that being said, I'm gonna connect this Techdisc real fast, do some warm-up throws. Honestly, maybe stuff for my chest could be helpful because it's not feeling active. I'm just trying to take kind of stock of my body and do some warm-ups and make sure I'm going through motions as well as I can before I get into more of my stock throws and then trying to throw for distance, where I actually end up sometimes throwing not as fast, which I honestly think is the disc in some part. But I'll get to that in a second. Techdisc also has kind of a cool simulator feature on the computer. It's pretty fun to mess around with. I have the Undertaker mold right now, which is the Discraft 9-speed, and that is going to be the biggest thing. I'll explain to you guys after I throw these. Maybe you'll be able to see it, but if anyone wants the Undertaker Techdisc and they have any of the Innova Star ones and they want to make a trade, please reach out to me on Instagram. I would love to trade with somebody to not have this anymore. Quick, just kind of stepping up, warm-up throw. I'm gonna guess like 54, 55 maybe. Ooh, 49.5, let's go. Even here, it's interesting to see my nose angle. I wasn't anticipating this. My nose angle has gotten like really good, really consistently. So even on like these slower throws, being at negative nose angle, I used to, when I would throw slowly, no matter what, it would just kind of pop the nose up a little bit. Yeah, not 8 degrees, but I'm gonna throw, honestly, a couple more. I don't like throwing this disc very much because it actually hurts my ring finger a little bit, but throw a couple forehands, just make sure the body's feeling loose. I think getting kettlebells done here is going to be a great move or something so that I can feel the weighted movement, because when you're not able to release something, sometimes you can brace against it better. So if I'm doing a movement where I have like a weight it's a kettlebell, so I need to hold on to it, I can't come with the weight, so I have to like work on my bracing a little bit better. And for me, I'm thinking about bracing just as like being stable. So what was that for? Like 48? 51. So not bad. This is where the nose angle really will need some work, and the spin. And it's not as bad here with that. So I'm going to throw just kind of a stock, just whatever my stock shot's going to end up being. I'll throw 5 of those real fast, and we'll make a quick set. I'm going to guess it's going to be between 60 and 62 miles an hour, 1,350 spin, negative 2 degrees of nose angle. Let's see if I'm right. I'm not going to look for these 5 throws. I'm already not liking this guy. Okay. Let me make a quick data set and we can take a look. So this is actually pretty interesting. My I set it to data set. I made this data set of these 4 ones at least that it covered, and it's a little slower than I thought it would be. And it's a little slow in general of like what I think my throws typically are. I might get into one of those reasonings, or maybe I'm just not. I don't throw as fast, but I did throw faster with the other Techdisc that I used to own. That's not this one. And I also used to throw faster, but now I throw like 50 feet farther, which is very interesting. And I don't know if it's just me not being able to throw in here, or maybe I just don't actually. I'm a little confused, honestly, by some of this data. But speed is right at 60.1 on average. My spin is always pretty good. Mid 1300s, pretty consistently up to mid to high 1400s. Wobble, also don't really know what that means, but 1.7 on average. My hyzer, my angle is very consistent, 11 to 12 degrees of hyzer. So I know that's kind of my stock angle right now. That's just really what I like throwing on. I'm going to try to throw some flat to anhyzer, just one of those, just anhyzers, as we get into a more full power throw. Nose angle also pretty good. I'm really happy with that. Everything was nose down and around 2.5 to. But yeah, everything was between 2.3 and 3. So my throws seem very consistent, just not as fast as I want. And the launch angles, I don't know exactly what a great launch is, but an 8.5 launch on average, high being 10, low being 7. So pretty consistent throws there between those 4. I think I'm actually going to make I'm just going to do this on my computer because I don't know if my app might not be up to date, but not a great ambassador for Techdisc, seeing as I have an affiliate link, but I don't know. They don't sponsor me or anything, so I guess I could be bad at the product. This way too, we can start to record my form with the phone. And what's cool is now that it's in the simulator here, we'll be able to actually see kind of the simulated throw. I think a lot of this can come down to some of the issues I have with this specific Techdisc, which ultimately are that the little plus on the inside, I get a very, very bad grip with it. Like, I have a really hard time holding on to this disc in general, especially as compared to like most other discs. Like, I'm just going to show you a stock shot, and it's probably going to look faster with this disc than with this one, just because I feel it slipping off of my back fingers instead of me holding on to it. The rim is angled down and the Undertaker a little bit on the inside, which is cool, but it always hurts my tendon here. And it was interesting because I haven't felt pain in this tendon right here, my ring finger, in a long time since I've been throwing. And I've been feeling it since I started using the Techdisc again yesterday, and it's been like months really since I felt it there. So I was kind of surprised, and then I picked up just a normal disc. This is a Finish Line Rally. And I just feel like I'm holding on to it until release, and it's snapping off my fingers instead of slipping out. So I'm still going to use these numbers. If someone likes this feel and this disc, please trade with me. Oh my gosh. So now we'll throw some more higher powered shots, closer to like 90-ish%. See if there's actually any difference. And we'll do this 5 on hyzer, 5 on anhyzer, and see kind of what those sets look like before we get into some forehands. And then we'll get into my pros and cons for like using a Techdisc in general, because I do think it is a very useful tool. It also has like a video feature on here too, which is kind of sweet, which I see people use, which it records a video of your throw as you're throwing. So I'm going to have that up here for now, but I started the free trial. It's like $10 a month or something. I'm not going to pay to do that. I'd just rather throw and film myself separately. So cool to have a free trial though. So we'll throw a couple of hard ones a little bit and see how that works, and then we'll get to talking. I feel like this is an excusey video. I don't mean it to be. I was more just surprised when I picked it up, and then when I started throwing some other discs, it helped me realize some things. But I mean, 66.4. I mean, that's a great throw. My goal with these is to hit 70. And maybe if I just really focus on my grip, I can get there. I think if I get like whatever the Star Plastic one is, because I think I could throw 70. I just don't know. Maybe my spin speed and launch are all good enough that it counts for it, because I can throw over 500 feet now, at least sometimes, and that should mean 70 miles an hour, but who knows. Okay. I really hope I'm just being a little baby. Okay, this makes more sense. See, this is also cool to see. I do love using a Techdisc as benchmarking, but my launch is so low, 6.8. And maybe that's good with where my nose angle is, but let's see. I'm keeping this at a 9 speed, which is why we're seeing the throws be about 400 and something. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to throw that many throws. I feel a little jam in my finger from trying to catch it as it's coming out. I felt that one slip a lot, so if that one went slower, I could feel that. Similar. More nose down, I guess. If you want to throw more nose down, have it slip out of your fingers on your way out, I guess. And last one. I like this little mat. It's so cool. Yeah. Okay, so pretty consistent with where I was before, even though I feel like I throw farther now. My nose angle is much better. My spin is very consistent. My launch angles are pretty consistent. It's interesting that as I'm trying to throw it harder, the hyzer gets a little deeper. My stock, like, smooth shots were around 12, and these ones are around 16. So that's pretty interesting to see. Now I'm gonna try to throw some anhyzer. I'm just gonna give myself 5 attempts, so I'm really gonna have to focus up, and then we can look at the things that I need to work on now because of all this. If you guys have ever seen like Blitz disc golf or like Nick Crush, I know they use the Techdisc a lot, and they're saying that the sometimes anhyzer starts at like 5 to 10 degrees of hyzer for some people. I don't really know what that means or why, but they're saying sometimes the Techdisc, like true anhyzer, is like sometimes a little hyzer on the Techdisc, so I'm not 100% sure. Pretty happy with that though. My spin does go up when I throw anhyzer. I think honestly, because coming over the top, especially with this, it's easier to hold on to pulling down that way than kind of holding on to it as it's coming out this way. So that might be something where if I get a disc that I can grip onto well, I'm even closer to that higher spin typically. But this could all be just me talking out of my butt. Yeah, I don't think I'm touching 70 today. 67.3, 1477. I should probably change the flight numbers on this disc on the simulator, huh? Better. Okay, not nearly stable enough still. Whatever. The simulator isn't that important, but the speed is staying pretty consistent. Nose angle is staying pretty consistent, which I'm very happy about. And I am hitting my angles, so I can't be mad about these, which makes me excited for all the stuff that I know I'm gonna get to work on now that I have this space here and how we're planning on doing it. Let's see. I'm interested to see if this one's faster or slower, because I felt something different. Slower. Okay. I felt like my arm really came through and opened up more, but that also sometimes means for me, I overcompensate by not allowing my back shoulder to travel through, and it like just slows everything down unnecessarily. My launch angle is always so low. I'm gonna try to increase my launch on this one to get more of a full flight on the simulator just for a fun looking shot. Please tell me my launch is higher. Hey, let's go. 66.3. Right around 1400 spin. Wow, nose angle, anhyzer. Anhyzer was more as launch went up, which makes sense for me. I'm very intrigued. It makes a lot of sense. Let's see if this captured any cool videos. Maybe it's not the disc fault, but even just for this additional finger strain, which I don't feel even when I'm doing like rapid field work, I'm gonna need to get a new one just because I feel like on this disc the pressure is more evenly distributed, because I can't really, just on these typical discs, I can't really pull my fingers off of it, but applying that same pressure here, they're like slipping a little bit more. So I'm literally applying the same pressure and I can't pull that off. And these are slipping out of it. So that's where that difference comes, I think. And I don't know. So if anyone wants to trade, please trade me. Otherwise I might reach out to Techdisc people, see if I can do a 1-for-1 swap or whatever. It's a cool product to have, but I'm not willing to spend another $300 on another one of these. All right, we had a good old backhand time. Now let's throw some forehands. This is where I think things are going to be ugly. I think it's going to be, I'd be happy if I touched 60 miles an hour on the forehand. And I think I'd be happy if my nose was like better than 2 degrees up. It's not going to be pretty is what I'm saying. Yeah, 55, 2.8 up. Spin is atrocious on these, atrocious. 699, 53. My forehand is so much worse. Hey, better spin though. Also a really high nose angle. That seemed better. It was much better nose angle. Last one of that. Okay, 55. If I really focus up, my nose angle is only positive 2. My launch angle is pretty low, so I'm coming into it here and keeping the nose up. I think instead of blocking, rotating, and throwing. We'll throw a couple where I try to throw them harder to see if I can hit 60. 56.6. This is definitely a weirder feeling movement to me. Around 56. My forehands feel like it's gotten weaker recently. That one felt nose up. Yeah, way more nose up. Try to give it the boom, and I just get the classic. A lot to work on. We'll talk a little bit about form and a lot about training modality and how to fix it, because future snow days are going to be much more based on the form. This is a little more baseline benchmarking. My forehand, I think, is going to be the easiest thing to really dial up, and there's a lot of room for improvement here. Well, a decent amount of room for improvement on my backhand too, but a lot of room for improvement on my forehand specifically. All right, I just had actually a little bit of time in between all this to go chill with the baby and let my body cool down and think a little bit about my form stuff, because I looked at some of the Techdisc videos that got put up here, which is actually a pretty cool feature, honestly, that they do have it. And to be frank, I talked about this in that video that I did with Nick Crush. The idea of like proximal to distal in throwing, distal being the things that are furthest away, proximal being the things that are closest in your body, I guess closest to the spine. Because when you're thinking about rotating, you're thinking about rotating around or using your spine, like rotating around the spine and keeping your spine as neutral as you can, and everything rotates around it, because if it moves with it and rotates, it's not going to be as clean of a rotation. And so proximal, the things that's closest to the spine, is going to be your trunk. Distal is going to be like your little fingies. So some of my issues that we're going to see are going to be in my shoulder, are going to be in my elbow, and some of those issues are kind of elbow issues, pronation and supination, using some of these muscles right here. But I think most of my problem on both my forehand and my backhand is positioning and front side engagement. A couple big things. One, you can already see from here that my front shoulder is starting to dip below my back shoulder, and that's how I am kind of reaching the disc back, is by dropping that shoulder down. And so my whole like arm is pretty open here, and you can see the disc kind of raise up, and then it has to get back into that power pocket position eventually, which it is able to do here, which is pretty early in the throw. There's still enough time that that's all right. It's not great. And then I'm able to rotate through it. However, if we look at my trunk, what I'm doing is reaching the disc out, not reaching using my trunk. The difference of what that can look like is through this, I'm reaching my arm. If I want to reach my arm back and not really utilize my trunk very much, I'm just going to reach across my body. And if I want to get it as far away as possible, that's going to be the farthest that it can be. So I'm thinking about reaching with my arm. One of the things that my trainer Tommy's talked to me about a little bit is reaching honestly through your nipple. Sounds a little weird, or your armpit, because the muscles that stabilize in your armpit, one of them being your serratus, is kind of a wrapping muscle. It helps wrap your shoulder blade, and that's really what you want, is more to be wrapped around the disc and down here. And this is a position that's obviously very strong. When I go to rotate through, it's coming straight. I'm just rotating. It's not coming into this position, and I can throw out from there. And so I felt a lot more engagement right here. You can still think about reaching. Maybe you think about reaching and you think about a strong armpit and it reaches back here, and that's reaching, but it's a much more coiled position and it uses much more of this instead of just, for me, this is kind of reaching, and it separates my shoulder here with kind of my upper back. And so my rotator cuff gets long, and it does almost all the work of throwing is in my rotator cuff instead of in my much bigger muscles in my mid back, my mid traps, my rhomboids, and then my shoulder blade gliding. Instead, I'm just rotating. And that's not nearly going to be as powerful as full rotation. So it's going to be a result of me actually using my T-spine rotation, thoracic spine, kind of this area right here, using this band of muscles, that very first movement, to do the wrapping and to get me to here, instead of reaching out to get me to here. Training to get this is going to be partially this Nick Crush drill, where we start on one leg, and I think about actively coiling into it and rotating, and then from there 5 or 10 of those, getting into a standstill there, and then a one step from here, and then a 3-step back step. We actually didn't do this in that video, but 3-step back step. So from kind of Coriolis, from here, step, step, rotate, and then even that already changed it a little bit past what I want to, with how I'm stabilizing on my back foot. I'm not really engaging as much as I could on my quads. There's a lot of stuff that I know I need to work on that I'm really excited to have the space, because now every day I'm going to be doing it. And then eventually the full run-up and how to integrate it into that. And if my run-up has to totally change how it looks, that's good. And I think it will, because instead of me now coming and almost like I tumble down the T-pad almost, where I'm coming and I lead with this shoulder, like this leg gets more straight here, and I'm over this leg. If you see, like this kind of the position I'm in, which causes the shoulders to pitch, and I get here and I'm having to rebalance, and I stay kind of here, and so this arm just comes up and reaches back, instead of, if I'm able to, be like always stay in this kind of A-frame position where my center of mass is between my feet. My spine is between my feet and neutral instead of kind of over it. So if I'm able to stay here and my shoulders stay more in a good position, then I'm in a good position to just rotate and unrotate. I think my really wide reach back here will be changed just by doing that. Maybe thinking about keeping the disc closer and figuring out what those cues are, because I know how it's supposed to look and I can make myself feel those feelings. Now it's just translating it into a throw. Forehand, honestly, the same thing. The main thing I'm gonna start with is just fixing this trunk and then seeing what else is out of place, because the whole idea of proximal to distal is the problems are likely closer to the proximal side of things, and to work there first, because that's kind of like your foundation. I like to think of it like if I had a rubber band, which I totally don't, which is gonna screw up this whole analogy. But if you think about flicking a rubber band off of something, if you have a trunk, like a tree trunk, and you pull it against it, you can pull it as far as you want. As long as the rubber band is strong, then you're gonna be able to release it and it's gonna go wherever. If you have a little twig, it's gonna pull the twig back as it goes, and that is why proximally closer to you, your trunk, if my trunk is unstable or it's not doing its job, I'm gonna have to find compensation somewhere else down the kinetic chain. But if this can be stable, then the real weaknesses that are down here can start to show themselves and I can iron them out. So maybe there are problems in my elbow, and I think there are a little bit. Whole other story, but that's something that can't, even if I do fix this, there are still problems further up the chain that need to be kind of ironed out in order for me to throw efficiently. And so really just dialing in front side engagement, starting by ironing out the trunk issues, and then moving to the rest of my shoulder and arm. Because if my trunk can start to be stable and I start to get myself in this position, then if I do something weird as I'm starting to pull through and I go like this, then I know, hey, I can at least get here. And so the problem isn't that only, it's that plus. There's not gonna be the one thing that fixes your form or gets you exactly where it needs to be. If you look at how I've been kind of miming these throws, and then you look at what I just showed you, this throw, it's gonna be pretty apparent to say that one of these is gonna be more consistent than the other. And it's not that one. So a little bit of getting into the hips, a little bit of frontside trunk engagement. On the backhand, forehand, honestly, very similar. Two things that I noticed there though. One is a positioning thing, and the second one is just the same exact thing that we're already talking about here. So if I go to some of the forehand ones, if we look, the positioning is look how open I'm already starting to the target. Like my hips are never gonna get to 90 degrees away from the target. They're always a little bit this way angled. Like I'm too open to start with, and then I open up even more at the end. And so my arm has to stay a little bit wide. And so I could think about, hey, let me try to bring my arm in close to my body here. Since it's out here, let me just try to tuck it in. But that would mean that I'm gonna be throwing, if I keep my same weirdo positioning, then if I tuck it in, everything's going this way because my positioning is wrong. My body's like, I know he wants to throw it straight, so I'm gonna throw it straight, but it's gonna be a little less healthy on the arm because my positioning is already so bad that throwing it straight means I have to leave my arm a little wide and expose my shoulder. It stays a little bit more externally rotated than I want it to. It's gonna be, again, starting not necessarily one leg, but like really close standstill where I try to take my legs out of it and just try to put myself in that position. Whatever's comfortable for me with this front foot, whether it's straight on or to the side, for me it's probably gonna be slightly to the side. Stay closed to my target and kind of throw through. And then it's gonna be one steps, kind of like a pitcher. Mostly just figuring out that frontside engagement and then moving into my shoulder. This is an interesting journey, and I think the progression for me and why I'm so excited to have this space here is because I don't plan on doing like massive sessions anymore. Like this amount of throwing that I did with Techdisc, I hope to be about the most that I would ever do in a session. And this was honestly truncated from what it could be for the sake of a video and just doing benchmarking with the Techdisc. And we'll get into my thoughts on that here in a second. But my ultimate goal is to have much more frequent and much smaller sessions. So I edit a video, I get done, I want to take a little bit of a break. And so I go through my 1 foot, standstill, 1 step, 3 step back step, full X step progression, maybe 1 or 2 times. And instead of just like having 1 big session a day, I do 4 or 5 micro sessions, because then I have time to rest in between each of them, and my body has time to relearn, and ultimately for my nervous system and my musculature to connect it all, so that when I go out into the field or go out to throw, I can focus just on that instead of focus also on form there, because I can trust the process that my body is going to adapt in here. And so now it's going to be about actually doing the technique work to translate everything that I have learned and the capacities for my body that I have into actually throwing discs better. That being said, I have a couple quick thoughts on the Techdisc. Again, if somebody, wow, would rather throw anything else on that shelf, I think, for this, which is kind of funny for this being a training tool. But if anyone wants to trade me for this, please, please, please. It is definitely a good tool, a useful tool, but it does have its limitations. And for me, 3 big things. 1, I never really throw this disc in the real world, specifically like the Techdisc that has a thing on it, but also like this slick of plastic. And so I'm not really ever going to throw this disc in the real world. So the 1-for-1 application isn't quite there for me. 2, quantitative feedback isn't always the best or always needed. So looking at, hey, these are the numbers that this new cue is giving me, sometimes can actually be detrimental, because if you're working on something, it's going to feel uncomfortable. Let it feel uncomfortable. You need it to feel uncomfortable, because that means that you're doing something that's different, that your body's not used to. And unless your form is perfect or there's nothing that you want to work on, you're going to need that to feel that feeling. And it's one of the feelings that's easiest to shy away from. And so you're going to be feeling that, and then you normally throw 62 miles an hour, and now you're throwing 59 miles an hour. Even if the form is more or less correct, having numbers to go along with that can sometimes be a detriment to it. Sometimes they can be a help, and I'm not saying never do form changes using a Techdisc, but understand that it's a tool and it's not dictating anything. It's just giving you data. And so the interpretation of that data is up to you, and sometimes it can be harmful for you mentally or emotionally. And third thing is, it's really easy to overthrow with this thing, because you just rip. I didn't quite do it today, but even like every time I'd be like, I'm gonna throw 5 more, I threw like 6 or 7, because it's so easy to throw, and it's kind of addicting to see like, oh, what can I do with this one? Because there's so many different numbers that you can manipulate, and it's really fun to play games with the Techdiscs. But if you're actually using it for training, you want to have the most good reps possible, which is the other reason why taking time in between my sessions and doing less reps per session, but more reps total, means that I'll have like less fatigue every time I go and rethrow. And so you can really easily over fatigue yourself and then get frustrated because you're not hitting PRs all the time because you're fatigued yourself too much. So honestly, what I do love this for is benchmarking, like seeing where I'm at today. And then if I do end up training with somebody and getting a new one, maybe the numbers are the exact same, but I want to re-benchmark and see, hey, this is where I'm at. And it'll be cool to see, like with my forehand, it went down a decent bit because it feels very inconsistent and very bad. And so as I work on these things and I work on my backhand, like maybe it's something that I pull out every week and throw 10 throws with, or every couple weeks and see, oh, I made this form change. I am throwing farther. Let's kind of see what those numbers actually are. Benchmarking, it can be cool, but I don't even know if it's necessary if you're throwing out in a field or throwing onto the course and you know kind of what your discs do and at what distances. Having data for training is definitely helpful as well. So if, hey, this week I threw this fast, next week I threw this fast, also making sure that, okay, I didn't drink enough water this day, I ate more, I was better fueled this day, I had great sleep, like all these things do play a factor in how you're throwing the disc. For me, I'm sure I'm probably throwing not as fast as if I didn't have a baby 3 months ago and was going through that. Like there's a lot of rust that comes along with that. But this is, I think, a very good distance tool and speed tool, and those are not the only or most important things in disc golf. They're very important things, but they're not the only things. For me, I'm just trying to work on adding consistency to my mechanics in my throw. Or fixing my mechanics to add consistency to my throw by having a inherently more consistent mechanic, like one that's more easily repeatable. And so like speed and spin are not the most important things for me. So what I want is a consistent throw, which is going to come down to my mechanics and is not going to show up in the Techdisc. So just kind of know what it's for, especially for something that's like so expensive if you are looking to buy one. So yeah, those are my overall thoughts. I really appreciate you watching the video, taking the time, and I'm excited for this growth in the series and just getting better and taking along with most of my training. That's why I set that GoPro up over there, because it's so easy. It'll be so easy for me to just pop it on and chat and throw and film. And it's probably not the best footage, but it'll be the easiest way for me to capture a lot of my training sessions instead of like taking out this bad boy every single time. So I'm excited to see this place come along. I'm excited for the bag to continue coming along. I'm going to try that little ab engagement thing. It's not going to work because I haven't practiced it enough to put it in my form, but I'm going to try it. 20 miles an hour, 62.1, worst nose angle. Peace.